Good afternoon. And today we have an absolutely special guest. Good afternoon, Mollie.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate it. And I know we got a chance to chat before we hit record. And I know this is going to be a great conversation.
Okay. I would like to say thank you to our audience. And if you have trouble sleeping or sleep next to the snoring partner, today's interview would be great for you. And you can click the like and share button and share this information with your family and friends. And if you're a medical professional, I think this interview is going to be absolutely great. Put a great new light on the landscape of sleep and sleep coaching and chronobiology. And you can use our channel as a networking ground, because only together we can find all the pieces of sleep and breathing disorders and other sleep disorders without breathing, like insomnia, which is very popular among, I would say, evolutionary disease. And only together we can put the pieces and find the best solution for our patients or clients. So let me introduce Mollie to you. I found Mollie on Instagram. Usually I bring on my channel people who I know professionally, most of the doctors or the patients, but this one was a new way to find the person I was really interested to interview. Mollie is a creator of Sleep as a Skill podcast. But she also have a wonderful Instagram page with a lot of practical advices, and I highly recommend you to visit. And why I was so interested in Sleep as a Skill company, because it's optimize people's sleep through unique blend of technology, accountability, and behavioral change. And Mollie has her own part of this story, because she got through difficulties with sleep. And she has a background in a behavioral change. And I think, putting accountability into developing good sleep skills and chronobiology and a lot of practical application and her overall experience in life, I think it puts a unique blend into the therapy or help what she provides. And her podcast is very popular. I highly encourage you to listen, but also Mollie is almost ready to put a deal on a book. So now it's going to be in a written form, and we will find out more about that. And what makes me very proud to say about Mollie, she partnered with luxury hotels and lifestyle brands and appeared in 150 podcasts. So again, Mollie, please tell us part of the story what I did not put in my introduction.
Oh, well, thank you for that introduction. And yeah, I think what could be relevant for the listener, no matter where you're at with your sleep, I absolutely am a stand that we can always up-level our sleep. And my story is no different. My experience was one of, I think of my life in a 3-part series, really before my own sleep breakdown, my sleep breakdown, and after that. So what it looked like beforehand, because it really did change so fundamentally my experience of life. And so before I had this real sleep breakdown, what it looked like was a lot of labels and narratives with my sleep. I would say I'm a short sleeper. I'm a night owl. It's in my genes. I'll sleep when I'm dead. Like all of these ways to relate to my sleep as a fixed state, and as if it was just like something, a lot that was handed to me, and I just needed to survive that experience or that reality. And that's how I related to sleep. And that was as a child, high school, college. And what ended up happening throughout those periods of life was I would get more extreme with my habits. So I'd be going to bed later and later. I'd be justified and righteous and say, well, I'm a night owl. I do my best work late at night. And then I would say, well, I'll just sleep in. What's the big deal? What's the difference? And not correlating these breakdowns in my health and well-being. So I was getting more and more stressed and anxious as the years would go on, beginnings of an ulcer, shingles in my 20s, a lot of signs that how I was managing things probably wasn't working. And it wasn't until I went through this period of insomnia that completely changed my life. It was a real rock bottom moment for me. I was a serial entrepreneur in Manhattan, burning the candle at both ends. And of course, it didn't come out of a vacuum. It was a lot of mismanagement of my health and well-being as a whole. And the symptomology of now not being able to sleep for extended periods of time without, kind of slivering out a couple hours a night really had me feel like I was losing my mind. It was a very scary period of time because it was a fear, and it's a very common fear for people with sleep is this how it's always going to be for me? Am I stuck like this? Did something happen? Did my brain malfunctioning? Did I get sick? Did we can go through these things in our brain and try to postulate what happened, and is it always going to be permanent? Is it forever? And so I went through this period of really a panic that I was going to be stuck like this. I went to the doctors, left with sleeping pills, and in that moment really realized, all right, I'm going to have to get up under this problem. So I threw everything at this problem, spent a lot of time, money, energy, effort. And on the other side of that, what ended up happening was not only restoring my sleep to where it was, which I shared wasn't that great. It was actually now getting it to quantifiably great sleep, measurably with multiple wearables, really excellent sleep that I didn't even think was available to me, as I shared previously. And so it so fundamentally changed my experience of life that I could not stop talking about it. So organically, just these groups started emerging. So now, what ended up coming about was these small group programs, and it grew and grew into what is now Sleep is a Skill. So our company is really committed to my real mission on the planet, which is to help support people in transforming their sleep through circadian health. And the other results that came out were, now we have the #2 sleep podcast. We have a weekly sleep newsletter called Sleep Obsessions that's gone out every Monday for 5 years. So we've got longtime readers on there. We also have one of the largest databases of Oura Ring users from a sleep optimization perspective outside of research. So just looking at a very nuanced level on the things that can help support people in transforming their sleep. You mentioned the hotels. We also work with high stakes poker players in particular. That's kind of a niche that we work with a lot, which are really a great example because they are in environments designed on purpose to confuse your circadian rhythm, like casinos. So they're a great example in how we can bring learnings from them into our life. So I say all that, not just to say it, but to say that no matter where you might be at with your sleep, whether your story was related to mine, like, real struggles with your sleep, or even just, you'd like to improve it, no matter where you are, I am confident that we can make a difference with your results.
Oh, I love it. It's such a passionate introduction. And what I have to say, what a lot of people who kind of in millennial generation can 100% relate to your story. I hear it all the time.
Right.
Like on everyday basis, first people start struggling with the quantity of sleep, or not struggling, or at least experience that, and then quality of sleep. And it's become like a roller coaster, but I really like how you make a great observation, how it's connected to overall health. Like you start noticing that.
Absolutely. Oh, huge.
Yeah. So that's all very clear. But we would like to know about your system. What system you develop? Because it cannot be just information. Like we talked on our previous conversation, if it would be just information, we all would be the billionaires with the six-pack. So information is not enough just to give somebody, okay, that's what you have to do with the sleep hygiene. That's what you have to do this and that. And even for me, when I offer people treatment for obstructive sleep apnea and want to improve their sleep and offering them different remedies and all of that, that's not enough. It has to become part of you. So please tell me, in your system, how you make your system like in real life, to make it part of the behavioral change and accountability, how you create what exactly it is.
Yeah, well said. Because to your point, we can just gain more information, and yet if we're not acting on it, then we're not going to get those results. So the sleep is no different, and sleep is particularly important that we are both learning these skill sets, because that's why we call it sleep is a skill, because I believe that so many of us have no idea some of the things that are really messing with our sleep. I certainly didn't in my story for so many years, had no clue how much I was actually hitting at my results with my sleep, and unbeknownst to me. So what we've really created is this experience where people are both benefiting for what's known as the Hawthorne effect, which is really when you are being observed in a particular way. What we find in psychology is that people tend to change their behaviors when they have a knowingness that they're being kind of watched, or that they can see their results. And how do we do that? We use trackers, so wearable tech, and utilizing that from a behavioral change perspective. So what we do is every client we work with is required to wear the Aura Ring. And the Aura Ring, we thread that through to our dashboard. So we've got hundreds of people on our dashboard, so that we can look really nuanced from the moment they're waking up to when they're going to sleep, but also all kinds of things about what's happening through them throughout the day, their activity load, their heart rate behavior throughout the course of the day. So we can kind of get a sense of their nervous system management, as well as how things are happening for them throughout the course of the night, particularly HRV, heart rate variability, which I know we'll likely touch on. Right. So with all those things, then we can get a real good picture of what's going on for the individual. And then the framework that we utilize is something called circadian rhythm entrainment. And this is out of chronobiology. Chronobiology is the science of time and how time affects our biology. I'm really passionate that I believe that circadian health and chronobiology is going to be the next big thing in wellness, by which we have this blueprint that really is something that we had been utilizing for thousands of years as human beings when we were more outside in nature and dwelling outside. We'd be exposed to these rhythms more routinely, and I can share what those look like, but that would have helped align our behaviors. Since we're indoor creatures now, largely, and we have stats behind that that are pretty alarming of how much of kind of zoo animals we've become, that has divorced us from these rhythms. So with that, we're looking to how can we really bring these rhythms even indoors and get ourselves outdoors a bit more frequently to train our circadian rhythm. And our circadian rhythm is this 24-hour cycle of physiological processes that our body is really undergoing. Like some very clear ones are known as one, light, dark cycles. Huge. The number one most impactful for circadian rhythm entrainment. Temperature timing and meal timing. Those are just three. There's many more, but those are three popular ones that can really impact your circadian rhythm that we really help people live by.
I really, I always, since I'm a bilingual speaker, I have a different first language. I always love to learn the new word, but this is a very new concept. How, how close we become to zoo animals. I never even thought about that concept, but that's us. And you're right about circadian rhythm, and you're right how we, living in a different environment what we were originally designed. I like to talk about evolution. Evolution is my hot topic. So
me too.
We basically we lost a lot of things. But going back to that, please tell me about we talk about light. And I know a lot of new things I learned from your Instagram page and from your web page, and I highly recommend our listeners to delve into that.
Thank you.
I want you to talk about infrared light. I'm a big proponent of infrared light as well, but please tell me your view.
Absolutely. Okay. First off, to echo what you just said about the zoo animals, I think that it's so important that we understand this because it fits into the infrared light piece. And I'll explain why. So in 2001, the EPA did do a study. They found that the average American was spending around 93% of their time indoors, and that broke down to being inside and in automobiles. That was in 2001, before a pandemic, before smartphones, Netflix, all that. So I would wager that we're more in the high 90s, most likely today, meaning that we're spending the majority of our time indoors. Now, what is one of the things that we get cut off from when we are indoors? Certainly, it's full spectrum light, which includes infrared light. So infrared light, we would be present to, particularly rich, is in sunrise and sunset. It's that pinky hue. So that pinky hue is naturally and for free available to all of us if we are present and find ourselves and fix ourselves outside to absorb that type of light on particularly that first end of the day. Now, unfortunately, most people aren't doing that, but I would like to urge people to aim to bring that into your life, especially the first half of the day. If anything, if you're saying, well, I'm busy and then even if you just bring that on in the first half of the day, that will expose you to free infrared light every morning, which does a litany of things for our health and well-being, but namely resetting our master clock every morning. The body is looking for samples in the environment to tell it, and it's trillions of clocks that are in every cell and organ in our body, what time it is, what to be doing when, and that light is the most important. So for thousands of years, we've been looking and seeking that out. So getting yourself physically outside will be that free infrared light. Now, if you also are looking to bring about other ways to improve your health and well-being, some people will invest in infrared light options. So you can get red light tech. You've got totally right. So you can get for the face, you can get it for entire panels for the full body. You can get it for spot treatment. Now, a lot of the research for this came out of NASA, and when it was originally now there's much more research, but with its origin or its genesis, a lot of it came from NASA looking at wound repair and wound healing. And so it seemed to expedite our ability to heal any sort of problems. And these are important for NASA for sending astronauts off into space. They want to give them as much, shots at being healthy and well in shuttling through the atmosphere. So that's where it's derived from. For us, practical takeaways and how it can relate to sleep. What we're looking to do is sleep, we now know, is a very active process, and it does take a lot of energy and a metabolically taxing process. And if you don't have strong ATP production, and so if we think of mitochondrial health, kind of the battery source of our cells, if we are not able to support those functioning, then the quality of our sleep is going to suffer. So red light therapy, infrared light, there are now more studies specifically linking it to sleep. But for many, many other things around our health, but particularly mitochondrial function. And then it does seem to have some benefits that you could also put it into the gut health to support melatonin production, so serotonin to melatonin production. So it can get in the weeds, but that would be some of the high level takeaway with infrared light.
No, that was great. That's a great thing. So, it's kind of like a version of the entertainment for ancient people to watch sunrise and sunset. And some society, I would say Hawaii or indigenous people, they still do that. It's a very important ritual. So it has so many properties.
So many properties. And even if you were to just experiment and bring that in for a short period of time, that can be so beneficial for really balancing your circadian rhythms and, really realigning those and helping to support also hormone health, which is a big part of improving our sleep.
Yes. And another new term, what I learned from you, and I want to ask you, what is it, social jet lag? And what can we do to prevent it? Because, a lot of us live in that.
Great question. Yeah. Social jet lag, I really actually wish that we could find a new name for it, because what I'm finding originally why it was created or why it was coined that is because they would find that so commonly people would manage their sleep-wake cycle in a particular way, say throughout Monday through Friday. And they go to bed at a certain time, they wake up at a certain time, and things are locked in. And then the weekend would come. And then for socializing, people would start skewing way later, waking up later. And that's what they would find, that it would create this jet lag-like experience, even though no one got on a plane. They, kind of created all the experiences of jet lag. And if anyone's felt jet lag, you know how off you can feel. And that's what we're creating every single week for many of us. Now, the other thing I found, even since the pandemic, is that so often, even if people aren't socializing, they're just kind of, staying up late on their phone or Netflix or whatever they're doing, even by themselves. Now they're creating their own self-created jet lag. And so that is really problematic, because we might not be able to ascertain, people talk about kind of like the Sunday into Monday blues, and, that's kind of stress response when we're trying to gear back up into the week. I think many of us don't realize how the physiological effects of experiencing that kind of dysregulated circadian rhythm, which is really jet lag, can actually come out in our moods and affect our well-being, anxiety levels, depression, other things can come out as a result.
What would be the good way to fight that social jet lag, or jet lag in general?
Yeah, so good. Okay, so for the social jet lag part, no one likes my answer for this, but I'll share it, which is that the true breakthrough with this is to create a consistent wake up time 7 days a week, really plus or minus 30 minutes is kind of our generalized advice. If you say it's a really, really rough night, you went out late, or it was a wedding or something, our ideal recommendation would be to not swing it much more than an hour on either side. But what we'd like to do is see that you're maintaining that 7 day a week wake up time. And then that helps anchor us so that you're having that consistent cortisol pulse in the morning. We want a rich cortisol pulse, not too high, not too low. And we want that every morning and around the same time. If we're swinging around those wake up times, then you're going to swing around some of those pulsing, that pulse, and it will affect things in the evening. So consistent wake up time across the board, and really managing your life to support that. Jet lag, on the other hand, has a lot of components depending on where you're going, where you are, where you want to go, and then your kind of goals during that trip. So say athletes might have a very different protocol if they need to be at peak performance later in the evening. So we might kind of change around their schedule accordingly. What the listener can do is I always suggest this great app called Time Shifter. Mm-hmm. And with that, you put in your flight protocols or your flight time, and it will give you protocols around how to manage what they're trying to coin as an active verb, if you will, which is time shifting, so that you're in the process of time shifting even before you leave. So for many, especially long haul flights, they can give you recommendations even days in advance of things that you can start doing before you even get on that plane, to start shifting right beforehand. Then when you're on the plane, then even when you get off the plane, and then for your return flight, the same rules will apply. So it is a game changer. I was a digital nomad for about 3 years, lived in Southeast Asia, back and forth to New York. And so I became so in love with this thing. It made such a difference. So I highly, highly recommend trying something like that out. And last piece is for any shift workers listening, which can be so crucial if you are a shift worker to even learn more about these principles. That same company, and I have no affiliation with this company, but that same company did just come out with a new app called the Shift Work app. And what's beneficial about that is for any shift worker, you can put in your shifts that you have coming up, and it can help you understand what you can do to entrain your circadian rhythm to align with those shifts.
I love it. It was so many practical recommendations.
Oh, good.
And I like the idea what you have to strategically prepare yourself,
Yes.
for the trip, for the shift work. That's true, because, shift work, I noticed even in my practices, affects tremendously. It affects health tremendously. So my last question to you, Mollie, please tell us, I know in accountability or even in monitoring your sleep with the Oura Ring, you use a lot HRV. What exactly is HRV? And how you apply, working with a wearable device, and to understand heart health and general health. Please talk about applications you use and all of that.
Sure. Yeah. Great question. HRV can be so impactful in both understanding our sleep as well as our overall health and well being. The reason being is what it is. It's really the time between your heartbeats. And with that, we can get a lot of information about your resiliency, ability to recover second to second to second. Why this is important and why there's an argument that HRV could be one of the more valuable metrics on our wearables to date at the moment is because if it's this metric of recovery, what is our main goal with sleep is to ideally be recovered throughout the course of the night. And if you were struggling, if the body was struggling to recover second to second throughout the course of that night, that's with your average HRV readouts, then that can give you an idea about that quality of that sleep throughout the night. Now, one of the other really important pieces on the HRV readouts is that it's it's one of the few ways that we can look to a metric to point to our nervous system behavior. And we have few other ways to do that at the moment on any sort of consumer grade tracker. And right now, HRV is one of those things. And if we think about sleep historically, one of the big things that people have used to support sleep has been around calming the nervous system, so you'll see a lot of information around mindfulness, thought patterns, CBTI, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, other strategies really to manage our nervous system and our psychology. So with that, HRV can be a really empowering way that people that previously, like I get a lot of people that deal with chronic anxiety and what have you, they can point to a number and see, oh, geez, okay, I'm trending downward. It seems to be indicating that I'm having difficulty recovering. I'm having this kind of stress response. Then this can give me awareness to take new actions to restore my HRV back at least to its baseline. And hopefully over time that we're trending in a positive direction more towards a parasympathetic response versus sympathetic.
Oh, that was great. Thank you very much, Mollie. You gave us so much practical information, and I think people should visit your Instagram page or really website and maybe inquire about those cohort group, what they can learn, what sleep is a skill under your guidance. So thank you very much, Mollie, and we're gonna put links towards your sites and towards the information and teaching you provide. And I wish everybody, good night's sleep.
Oh, so well said. And thank you for the work you do. And thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to share about the thing that I really, really am so confident in. My entire mission on this planet is to help support people in this area. So I really appreciate your support in sharing this topic.